right, folks, and we are live. December 30th, Sonny. It's almost the new year.
It flew by, and I mean,
it certainly did.
Woo, I can remember back when we were kids. We couldn't wait for Christmas. We thought it was like 10 years for every Christmas to come around. And as we get older and older, it's just it flies by.
It feels like 10 minutes, doesn't it?
Yeah, really, literally.
Start preparing for 2025 already.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Totally crazy. It's been a good year, though. Good year for us.
Did you have a good Christmas?
Fantastic. Yeah, my both my daughters were back in town with us, and we had parents come over, and it's just nice to have everybody under one roof,
Yeah.
Even for a few days.
Whole family down. Yeah.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah, at Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we didn't do anything because I was sick, cold, stuffiness, and coughing all the time. But we did get together Saturday night. My brother came down from his wife and came down from Tennessee, and we had dinner at mom's. My sister and me and my wife and my mother. So it's a small crowd. My daughter came down to see us Sunday for a little while, but we don't get out much, anymore. Not a lot going on.
There's a lot of good, like you said, there was a lot of good football on.
Right. A lot of football, watching a lot of football. I'm sure you're excited about the Commanders.
I am over the moon right now.
My favorite team, I guess you could say, goes back to the Joe Namath days. Joe Willie Namath back in the late 60s. I think he won the
Jets.
The Jets, man. Whew, they just look so pitiful.
They do.
I don't even want to talk about it. It's so bad. So.
It could get worse because I saw Ron Rivera might become the head coach.
Yeah.
Which we ran through him here in DC, and it was not the greatest of times for us.
Yeah, they need something, man. I don't know what it is. A new team.
They certainly do. Well, we
got somewhere else.
Right. Hey, maybe Nashville. Well, they've got the Titans actually, so I guess they couldn't be Nashville.
Right.
So we've got some fun home theater, and I guess you would say it also straddles that 2-channel audio world chat for tonight with a company that's come to fill a void in our industry.
Yep, maybe you might say the Oppo replacement, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, we're going to get into this because, I've heard people say over time that this is simply a brand that's reskinning what Oppo was selling, but
I've heard the same thing. Maybe Scott Bradshaw can clarify that for us.
Yeah, I think he definitely will. But it's definitely a really interesting time right now in the world of discs because, LG recently announced they're not going to make disc players anymore. Samsung a couple years ago, not making disc, players. Then in Australia, they're not importing Disney discs anymore. So it's this weird situation where the market's kind of collapsing, but also at the same time, we're seeing some of the best releases ever for enthusiasts. And then, also, I mean, you're a big fan of SE CDs.
I am. Got a few DVD audios. And I don't have a player right now, so that 800 is looking really good to me.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to fix you up and get you with a review sample so you can put it, through its paces and see how it works in your system.
So I'm excited about it. So I think I've looked at it a couple of times, but I probably looked at it closer the last few days, knowing that Scott was going to be on with us than I have before, and it's kind of got my excitement back up. So,
these things are awesome. Like I told you earlier, I've only ever seen the 900 in person, and I personally think it looks really good to the eye. And Scott's going to talk a little bit about that too, the kind of the consumer reaction to the design of it. But they're really nice equipment. It's great to have them kicking it around and keeping the high end of disc playing in play for all of us. So so should we bring him on?
I think so.
It seems like a good time to bring him on. Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Scott Bradshaw. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us.
Scott, do you want to take a second to just give us a little background on yourself? Because you have an interesting history in the industry.
You know, like many of people in the industry, my story starts when I was a kid. My dad took me to a stereo store, high end, and we started listening. And, you know, I got into high end audio a little bit back then. And over the years, more and more audio. And for right after college, I ended up working at a company called MTI. They make switching systems for audio and video for sales, point of sales. And then some detours in my career, and now I'm then back to wireless audio at Summit Wireless, turned into WISO over time. And now I'm a Magnetar.
Those MTI switching systems, is that the company that's involved with the display booths that you would see in like a store?
Yeah, if you go to the easiest one's car stereo store, and you want to listen to a head unit, and you want to listen to a different amplifier and a different speaker, or even if you, for many years, if you went into Magnolia, what they use in their demo rooms to switch between different speakers, different amplifiers, that's all MTI product.
And then WISA, Sonny, are you familiar with WISA Wireless?
I am not.
Scott, do you want to give the 1 minute elevator pitch on it?
So 24 bits, 48 kilohertz, 96 kilohertz, uncompressed wireless, 8 channels, anywhere in a room. You know,
it's
in your
pretty awesome.
Theater, targeted at home theater, and really sounded good. Still does. I'm just not there.
That's true. It does have I mean, they're definitely making waves though in the industry, still very relevant. And I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about that in the future.
I mean, it's the coolest thing. You want to hook up a home theater, you don't have to drag speaker wires, just plug them in the wall. So there's always a wall socket somewhere around. And so you just take your speaker and plug it in, and that's it. And the wireless connects up, and you get uncompressed 24-bit, 96 kilohertz to the speakers.
Yeah,
that's pretty nice.
Yeah,
convenient.
It is. Yeah.
As soon as they can figure out how to beam the power to the speaker without wires.
Yeah.
Then we'll be on to something.
Or that forever battery that just has all the power you need forever, right?
Exactly. A little nuclear reactor inside the speaker.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, can you start us off this evening with giving us a little taste of how Magnetar came to be?
Sure. Magnetar is a vanity brand for a company in China that makes lots and lots of different brands of, as an ODM, they produce Blu-rays, SACD players for many brands that you and I probably, most everyone would know. Some of them are super high end, some of them are low end. They're across the board. And Magnetar saw an opening in the market and said, "Hey, let's make a product that's our vanity brand, and let's put it, you know, there's an opening where Oppo left off, and let's improve upon that." And the UDP800 and UDP900 are those products.
And, you know, we had touched on this. I'm sure you heard behind the scenes there while we were chatting. And I talked to you about this last week. You know, one of the things that I've heard at various industry events, and Sonny said that he's heard this, is that, hey, it's just a reskin Oppo player. But you say that's not the case.
Squash the rumors.
You know, the reason you hear that is you start into the menus and they look very similar. You start playing with it and it feels a lot like that. But yeah, no, they never made product for Oppo, and they're not Oppo.
Anybody that worked with Oppo work with you guys, or in development or anything, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I'm sure there's potential overlap of engineers or things along the way, but I have no idea.
Okay.
It's, you know, the kind of the disappearance of Oppo, you know, and they're really big in the cell phone industry. But the disappearance of the disc player side of that company was shocking to, I think, a lot of folks. because
No
they had just
doubt.
come out with their 203 and 205 players, and they were still in the process of, coming up with the correct firmware to run the 4K players, and they just kind of pulled the plug and went a different direction. And that, like Scott, like you said, there was a void there. Really cool to see somebody stepping in and filling that space up.
No doubt.
Yeah. Have to agree.
Yeah. So
We needed a replacement for Oppo, no doubt. I mean, that was the brand for quite a few years, and nobody topped them, But I think Magnetar, it looks like they're up there.
Yeah.
Maybe just a level above Oppo.
Well, what's really interesting right now is, in the disc market, we have basically the vast majority of movie sales on a weekly basis are actually going to DVD sales. It's crazy to watch, but it's roughly between 60 to sometimes up to 70% of sales are DVD sales. Then we have another kind of slice of that with Blu-ray. 4K is even less. Some weeks 4K has gotten up to about Blu-ray's sales capacity, but what's interesting is those numbers, Scott, they don't tell the story about what's actually happening on the collector side of the market and people who really want high quality disc material. Like we saw recently with there was some Interstellar. I'm sorry. I just had a brain lapse there. Interstellar had a re-release for the 10th anniversary, and that's sold out pretty much right away.
There's collector sets coming out all the time. Blu-ray sales are actually, I'm not sure all the numbers of the stuff I saw, they're up this last year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's collector sets with all kinds of extra pieces, and it's amazing what the studios are doing at this point, selling those.
Is Magnetar tracking at all that the sales numbers on that side, and watching kind of, people are getting more in tune with physical media right now? It seems there's definitely been a resurgence in interest in it.
Yeah, and Magnetar is working with the studios, and they've got a board of directors that's working with, where should we go? Where do we go? How do we put things together to work together with them?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's get up some pictures and we'll start talking about some of the products that you guys sell. Let's start off with this guy, the UDP9000. Give us a little walkthrough on what this thing has to offer.
So the UDP9000 is really a media player. It plays Blu-rays, SACDs, and media files. It'll play off your network drives and up to 16 terabyte off of a USB drive. And it'll play pretty much whatever type of media files you want to feed it. It plays it. The list is long. I'm not going to read the whole list, but it's pretty long. It'd be easier to probably say which ones don't, but I'm not sure which ones aren't there. So
I didn't see any that weren't listed.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Scott, how do you explain? I mean, it's a rarity, it seems, these days that a disc player will play SACD. Why is that?
I have no idea. This one does.
Yeah, it does. It's so. I mean, Sonny, have you ever heard any reasoning as to why that?
I don't know, unless there's something in the chipset that is expensive about it. I don't know. I mean, it really doesn't make sense to me. It would seem like there's got to be a reason, or otherwise everybody that makes a universal player like this would include SACD, you would think.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
So Scott, you haven't heard any reasoning behind that?
I don't have any reasoning behind it, no.
Yeah. So I mean, Sonny, you're a SACD fan. I've got some Pink Floyd SACDs that they sound really, really good to me. Could I pick it out in a blind test? I'm not sure, but
I know I could, because mine, there's a lot of surround in it. It's the Wish You Were There SACD. Have you heard that one? Yeah.
No, I've never heard. I have Dark Side of the Moon SACD.
Yeah, I've got that one too. It's not quite the same as Wish You Were There for some reason or another. But the DVD audios that I've got too are incredible. Eagles and Leonard Skinner, and there's some good stuff, man. I'm telling you, I can hear a difference, no doubt. I mean, it's more surround to it, you know. I can remember when Wayne and Dennis were down here for we had one of our little evaluation events, and Wayne just fell in love with that Wish You Were Here disc. He wanted to take it with him. I wouldn't let him, but he listened to that thing like 3 times. He'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go in there and listen to it. He said, and that's the best I've ever heard this. You know, it's incredible. That's back when I had the Oppo player. Should have never sold it, I guess, but.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, I mean, Oppo players are actually selling roughly for about Scott, what you guys are selling MSRP on your players here.
That's what I've been told. I've had a number of customers tell me that their Oppos are that much, and yeah.
I mean, this seems to be the obvious choice right here. So this 800 is the kind of I guess you would call it the entry level model. Yeah. And we're getting a nice little look at it right here. Kind of have that checkerboard front that the 900 model has, but not quite as evident to the eye. Is the entire front brushed metal?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah, it does. So you can see in the back, this is a 2-channel oriented output here on this guy for the analog outs.
Yep. The analog outs, 2 channels. You've got the XLR and the RCAs. You've got optical out and speed of out, and USB. And you've got 2 HDMIs. One HDMI is for hooking to your video to the TV, and the other one is if you want to hook up to a AVR, you connect it to the other audio out on the HDMI.
Right.
And then there's a network connection.
Right. So the audio out there is really nice because you don't need to dump it into a processor, right? I mean, you guys are doing the processing on board.
Right.
For analog out.
I've got a number of customers that have told me what they did is they hooked up for their home theater. They hooked up the system to their AVR using just HDMI through the second HDMI. And then they took analog out and connected it through the XLRs to their AVR for 2-channel listening. So
it's pretty cool.
And Dennis, I mean, Sonny, when you want to hook up that surround on your SACDs, well, that's where the UDP900 comes in, because it has 8 channels of RCAs coming out. You can connect up to your player.
Well, that'll run through HDMI too, right?
Yes.
Give you a look on the back there.
Yeah,
right. I mean, if you wanted to get those multi-channel experiences with the 800, you would just dump HDMI out.
Yeah,
right to your processor.
The problem I would have with the 900 is it wouldn't fit in my rack. I just can't make it work. I mean, it's too tall, and I can't adjust my rack. So
you got to get a bigger rack.
That's not too tall, you know. My stereo cabinet.
Yep.
So, okay, Scott. So walk us through this guy on the inside, because there's some good stuff here for us to look at.
Yeah, when you take the lid off, I look at things. I've seen a lot of stuff over the years, and there's some really neat things that our engineers did on this. The video board, which is all the digital stuff, is on the left side there, labeled video board, and it has a MediaTek 8581 chip in there, and that takes care of all the decoding, all the processing, all of the digital portions. And then it's kind of hard to see, but right above the A and audio board, there's a ribbon cable that goes in between the video board and the audio board, and all the audio gets taken across through the ribbon cable. So everything's kind of kept separate.
Hmm.
One of the things you don't want to have is all the digital noise getting into your analog board. And so they have a nice little ribbon cable that goes across, takes the data across. And then on that board, you've got two TI Burr Brown PCM 1795 DACs. And if you look at the board, the one DAC's right underneath the word Brown, one DAC's right underneath the 5 and 1795. And if you look down from that, the board's fairly symmetrical. They made left channel and right channel very much the same and ran them down through the board and out to the connectors. That was a nice feature that they took two separate DACs, put them in separate. If it was a lower cost player, somebody could have just taken one 1795 DAC. They do two channels and put it there. But this way you get more channel separation.
Very cool. And short pathways. I mean, between the video and audio there. Yep.
And then the both the optical drive, the Sony drive, and the power supply are metal cans that shield all the EMI RFI from those.
Wow. It looks robust for sure. And you have that fairly large power supply there up in the right-hand corner.
Yeah. Yeah. With lots of filtering.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep. And how about the case itself? Anything in particular about this guy that's unique to Magnetar?
It's pretty heavily built, and it's a double-walled case, most of it.
Yeah, I know. I was noticing it was a dual-layered metal case.
Yeah.
It's got to be pretty heavy, huh? I didn't even see the weight on it, but
about 17 pounds.
Yeah, that's pretty substantial for
something that thin. Yeah,
no doubt. That's substantial. Yeah.
Seems light after you pick up the 900.
Yeah. Well, the 900, I mean, in all honesty, if anybody's seen a large, fairly high-end AVR, the 900 really kind of matches that in terms of size, right? I mean, it's
size and heft both. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but this guy's a beauty. Let's take a look at that 900. There you go. You can see it.
There's the checkerboard front that people love so well.
Yeah. So, Sonny, you fall on one side of the fence on this, and I'm on the complete other. Yeah. I think it looks really cool.
I mean, it's okay. I don't know. I mean, of course, like I said, it wouldn't matter for me because it won't fit. But I imagine if it would fit, I'd probably end up figuring out a way to like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know that in my case I would really need it. I think the 800 would do what I want to do for my use. If it was a different kind of setup in my system, if I didn't have Kaleidoscape, this might be the route I would take and figure out something else. So.
Well, you mentioned you were going to have your AVR do the digital to analog decode anyway, and so in that case, the 800 would do the job for what you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, Scott, what's the big difference between the 800 and the 900?
The headphone jack on the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's obviously right there. It's sticking out like a sore thumb, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That is the biggest difference, right?
That's the biggest difference right there. That's $1,400 price increase. You get the jack.
Yeah.
No,
seriously, the 900 has a USB DAC built in, so you could really use it just as a USB DAC, connect to the headphone jack, and you've got an absolutely incredible experience just using streaming from, say, your computer. It's, people pay that much for USB DACs and more. And but on top of that, this has the 8-channel decode on, we're looking at the back now. So it has the 8-channel decode. So it does Dolby. So if you have SACDs, I've got guys that connect up to those, and they use their SACD as an experience there, and then they have a different system for their home theater, and they use the AVR to do the decoding on that. and that way they have Atmos for one and the SACDs on the other.
Mm-hmm.
You also get on the 2-channel XLRs, you've got 130 dB signal noise and 130 dB dynamic range capabilities, which that's due to the ESS DAC that's built in.
Okay.
A lot of the other connections on the back are really the same as the 800. It still has the two outputs for HDMI, one for your video and one for the for the audio for the AVR.
With the analog outs, do you have any control over things like crossover, things like that internally?
On the
900?
Yeah, on the 8-channel, it's all controllable. Yeah.
It's all controllable.
Yeah. So you can set it up for your room if you only have a 5.1, or if you have whatever, you can set all of that up just like you would in a normal AVR.
Right.
So you could use the analog output, say, with the DACs, and then your surround part, center and surrounds, could be through the other analog output. Is that correct? So you got front, left, and right. You got two different analog outputs for right and left.
Yeah.
Just a strictly stereo output for the XLR output, the balance.
Yeah,
output.
they are strictly stereo. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can't mix that with your 8-channel and just skip your left and right on the 8-channel.
I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. I haven't tried it.
I don't know that would really benefit you, but it might. I don't know.
See, get a look in the inside of this guy. It looks way different, Scott, than the 800.
Yeah, this one is way more impressive when you open the top and look inside. It's like, wow. You've got a couple of power supplies. One's a linear power supply, 60 watts, and then there's a digital power supply. So one feeds the analog boards and the other one feeds the digital decoding and all of that, the switching supply for the digital. You can see the DAC there for the output, the DAC board, which is at the top in the middle. And that's the decoder for the 7.1 analog out.
Okay.
The drive box is really very similar to the one that's in the 800, and both of the power supply and the drives are covered with metal cans, again, to eliminate EMI, RFI. Mm-hmm. And then on the right-hand side, which is the part that, it's even more impressive, is the analog board and the 2-channel analog out, and also the USB streaming board. There's the XMOS processor. A lot of USB products use XMOS as their interface, and that goes into the DACs that are used for the 2-channel and can be fed into that.
Can you explain exactly what that is and how it works, the XMOS?
The XMOS is just a processor. It's a brand name of a processor, but they put a lot of work into coming up with a USB audio interface.
Okay.
And it's pretty universal, works. Many USB DACs use that as their interface. It's kind of like the universal, everybody uses one. If you have a USB DAC of any kind, they've got an XMOS behind it almost always. Mm-hmm. Not always, but most of the time.
I'll get a good look at it right there.
So going back to that 7.1 channel audio board, it has the 9028 Pro, the Sabra DAC. Now, is that just the front and left channels, or is that a DAC for each channel?
That's a DAC. That DAC has the outputs for each channel.
Okay.
So it's one DAC.
Yep.
For the multi-channel.
So it handles all 8 channels then, I guess.
Right.
I got you.
So the I2S, the digital audio is fed from and you can't see this, it's underneath the analog board on the right is where the digital audio decode, or the digital decoder, the processor, like we saw in the 800, there's a board similar to that underneath the analog board. Mm-hmm. And so that digital signal is fed across to the DAC from there and decoded in the computer on the decoder board.
Right.
I'm not all that familiar with how DACs work really. So other than they convert digital to analog, obviously, but as far as their implementation, I don't know if it was when you have a 2-channel. I don't know if you had 2 DACs or 1 DAC to handle both channels, or how that really works. So
it all depends on how the designer decided to do it and what the DAC's capabilities are. So some DACs can do up to 8 channels, some do 2 channels.
Okay.
So on the 800, the 1795s we were looking at, those are actually 2-channel DACs, but they're set up in a 1-channel mode just to get a little better performance and a little more channel separation. That way you don't have crosstalk between channels. On here, you've got the ESS 9038 on the analog board, and it's set up as a 2-channel out. And they also did a couple other things on this. There's temperature compensated crystal oscillators on the analog board and also on the video portion of this player. Those reduce jitter. Jitter is one of those things that helps cause background hiss. You know, if you stick your ear up close to a speaker, sometimes you hear hiss. The more you reduce the jitter, the less hiss you get.
All right, we talked about this, Scott. Somebody out there right now is thinking, okay, jitter. What is jitter? So I'm going to give you a chance.
Jitter,
tell us exactly what jitter is. Explain it. You have to explain it to Sonny.
Sure. So in the digital world, where the decoding all happens, everything's in square. You know, you've got either it's a 1 or a 0. It's on or off. So it's kind of looks like a square wave when you look at it. And there's a clock. And so what happens is you set up what you want, the data you want to have, and then the clock executes, and everything needs to be solid at that point. Well, if there's jitter on the clock, that means the clock is moving back and forth. And when it does that, it doesn't always pick up things and lock things where it should. And so you get a little bit of hiss, a little bit of background noise. And that happens on analog, and actually you can get that even in video. And that, you know, over the HDMI. And so that was one of the questions that I asked about is, hey, is there a, you know, temperature compensated crystal oscillator on the video side? Because if there is, that just means that it's going to be a little bit crispier, a little bit cleaner than a player that doesn't have that.
That was a really big thing back in the day. I remember a lot of people talking about jitter, and now it seems like it's measured pretty regularly now, and not as near as big. They got more control over it now than they used to have. So,
got a question from Brian. He is wondering, what does the audio processing for the HDMI out? It's just a digital dump. So
both of them do all Atmos, right?
Actually, it's the MediaTek chip does the audio processing for the HDMI out. I assume
that's okay.
Yeah. Actually, wait a minute. I was meaning for the analog out. For the HDMI out, the audio processing is taken off the disc and then, you know, sent through out the HDMI, usually unprocessed too much.
Right. Yeah. So you're
all native.
Just a bit stream.
Your preamp or your AVR is going to do the processing.
Right.
Of that signal.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Let's see if we get our picture back on here. Interesting. Okay. So you have one DAC for 2-channel on here on the right side and one DAC for the multi-channel.
Right.
But on the 800, you have 2 DACs essentially for left and right channels.
Correct.
So I guess theoretically speaking, if you were really hardcore into 2-channel, the 800 would be kind of the preferred way to go.
Well, they're 2 totally different brands of DACs, 2 totally different sets of features. And I assume the engineers did that with the 1795 to create a better separation. On the ESS 9038, they did other things like reduce the jitter and the separation in the ESS. I haven't looked at that spec, but maybe it's high enough they were okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would think it would be, because that Sabre, that's a pretty high-end DAC there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know I've read a little bit about the different DACs and stuff back when I was doing my headphone comparison, headphone amp comparison. A lot of different DACs out there, but those are the ESS DACs are really good DACs. So
Right, they are.
Those are some pretty big capacitors staring at us down there in the right corner. Let's talk caps.
Yeah, I'm going to move you to the top right corner.
Okay.
Those are the caps in the audio stream, and they actually call out the brand and the things on them. High quality caps make a huge difference in the sound quality. And where I come from on that is years ago, back when I was at MTI, I was working on a system, and I was listening to 3 different amplifiers in a switching system, and one of the amplifiers I listened to, it's like, wow, this sounds way different. Something's not right. Then I listen a little more, and it's like, no, that's actually content that's just not there on the other 2 amps.
Mm-hmm.
And so that took me down a trail of, well, what are they doing different? Well, they had different caps, different high quality caps, high quality resistors, lots of little pieces in there that made a difference. And there was no decoding, nothing else, just amplifiers, but it made a difference. So you could hear content in one of those amplifiers that just wasn't there on the other 2.
With your background in electrical engineering, does that surprise you to say that you're here? I mean, I think when we were talking a week ago, you kind of expressed that you were a little surprised at times to hear differences in equipment that you weren't expecting to hear.
Well, in engineering school, they don't teach you about the differences in your years back listening to something that they said, yeah, here's a filter cable, power cable that's filtered, and they said I can hear the difference in that, and I'm like, they don't teach you anything about how that would make a difference. In this case, the products I was listening to were Mark Levinson amps and DACs and the CD transport, and it was over 20 years ago, and I'm like, how? No, you mean to tell me that the guys who made the power supplies at Mark Levinson messed up? I just can't believe that. But the guy insisted he could hear the difference. I haven't personally heard that difference, but there are people that can. And it depends on how good your hearing is and what you can hear.
Yeah, you got to have special ears for that kind of stuff, no doubt.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of training to it too, I think, for some people.
There are those that can hear it. If they have the ear, then they're going to be looking to buy that kind of quality of product. Right?
Problem is you can't train an old dog, and I'm an old dog, so I can't. I can't figure it out.
I know there's a lot of people that will say there's no way that you're hearing the difference. It's all in your head. But yeah, I do, Scott. I think that you're right. I think there are people out there that can train their ear. Just like I was showing one of my daughters. We were taking a walk the other night, and we were looking at all the Christmas lights that are out, around our neighborhood. And I asked her if she could tell the difference between the LED lights and the old incandescent bulbs. And, beyond just the brightness factor. And she was like, no, I don't know how to tell the difference. And I was like, well, if you just move your eyes quickly back and forth, you're going to see the flicker. And you can see which one is an LED bulb and which one's incandescent. So I think right there, that's kind of maybe a bad example, but it is an example of, being able to be in tune with something in a way that other people aren't. To be able to pick out that difference. And I just know that people can hear a difference in these things. I guess I don't know what to look for because I have a hard time hearing a difference, but I'm sure you're cursed once you figure out what that difference is.
Yeah, I don't think I want to know.
I hear the difference.
I'll be chasing it.
Yeah, I've heard the difference in USB cables, just streaming audio in USB. And, on RCA cables, you can hear the difference. Those are easily an A/B test, and you can go, oh, yeah, I can pick that out of a crowd. There's a lot of things I can hear, and some things I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So are these capacitors, are they custom made for Magnetar, or are these high end off the shelf products?
They're high end, dedicated towards audio products.
Mm-hmm. And then down below there, is that the headphone? Let's see.
Yeah, you got a power. You've got some filtering for power supplies, and that's the caps and some of the other parts you see down there, and then for the different power rails that are in there.
Right. Got some heat
So,
dissipation going on in there.
yeah, that's the filtering and the regulators.
Let's see. Thought I
Really, really good looking, neat,
yeah, there we go.
high quality built machine, no doubt.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. What's going on with the thick dividers there between the three sections?
Those are case stiffening, just keeps the resonances down and also helps with some of the shielding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this case is built double wall everywhere and extremely heavy duty. It only weighs 37 pounds.
Woo.
Only.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strap on that weight belt when you're pulling that thing out. Does it do any sort of HDR tone mapping? Have you guys ventured down that road at all?
Does not.
This does not.
No.
And we had talked also about modularity in terms of being able to upgrade one of these units down the road. And you had said yes.
My understanding is in the future there will be an upgrade path. Yeah.
That's good to know. Sonny, I don't know if you're aware, but HDMI 2.1 is about to be announced in a couple days.
Is that going to mess everything up?
Well, we haven't really figured out. Did I say 2.1 or 2.2?
You said 2.1.
Yeah, 2.2.
2.2.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
I didn't catch it either till you did.
2.2 is getting close to being announced at CES, and I think we really haven't quite figured out 2.1 yet. People are still messing around with that.
So, Scott, I know that is it maybe the sister company? Is it Revon? Is that how you pronounce it? Revon or Revon?
Revon?
It's REAVON?
Yeah. Yeah. As far as I know, they're not a sister company though.
No, you're not owned by the same company?
No.
I thought y'all were owned by okay.
So that's you brought up something that I've heard a lot of misconception there.
Well, it's all over Google that, I mean, if you search it, it says that both of you are owned by the same company, but you can't always trust Google either. So
you can't.
It's one of them kind of things. But I know that they're supposedly now. Again, this is Google. What people and most people in the forums, they get their information mostly from Google. But I think
if it's on the internet, it's got to be
discontinued
true, right?
brand. I want to say it's a discontinued brand anyway. So yeah. I mean, you guys are pretty much it in the high end realm of universal players, as far as I know, at this point in time, right?
As far as I know,
I can't think of any. I mean, the next closest thing that I can think of is the Panasonic. Is it UDP9000?
Yeah,
or 900?
U9000, UB9000.
UB9000.
Well, they may have changed the model since that's the one I have now. So, but it doesn't do SACD. So,
yeah, Sonny, we'll have to get you upgraded.
no doubt. Look, I'm excited about it. Todd, you were talking about that Pink Floyd. I Wish You Were Here SACD. I think it has 2 modes on it, stereo and 5.1 channel surround.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's why you can hear a difference between it and a regular CD. You definitely not, as far as just the plain 2-channel SACD. I don't know. I don't even think I've ever even played it in 2-channel. It's
Yeah,
always
why
been
would you
1.
with the 5.1 mix on
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy how good it's mixed. Now it's been a while since I've heard it. I don't even know if they have a Atmos version of that or not, but I haven't heard a lot of good Atmos music tracks yet. I haven't found a source for them yet that I thought sounded good. Not in the streaming format anyway. I don't know if I don't have something going on right or whatever, but I'm really wanting to hear those SACDs and DVD audios with my new setup, because my setup's changed drastically since the days that I had the Oppo player. So that's why I'm really looking heavily at getting that 800. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to get it.
Well, you know what? I think, from my perspective, Scott, you guys are a relevant company. You're alive. You're providing support for the product, which to me is one reason why, I would go for this over trying to source a used Oppo player, because, as changes come about and firmware needs to be updated, you guys are actively doing that.
Yeah, Magnetar is dedicated to supporting and keeping these products and supporting the 4K Blu-ray and media player world. Yeah.
Is it connect to Wi-Fi?
No,
Just
the Ethernet connection.
Just through Ethernet. So when it's time to upgrade these with firmware, is that done through USB, or if you had it hooked up by Ethernet?
It can be done through USB. The easier way is through Ethernet. I don't have a hardwire to my office where I have this. I just bought a range extender, $25 or something like that on Amazon, hooked it up, and works great.
There you go.
Now, does the Ethernet connection give you any additional information? I forget what they call that. Those sites that provide information about disk and so forth. I mean, does it grab anything from the internet at all?
Nope.
Or it's just mainly for updates?
For updates or playing from your
Streaming
network.
Right. If you have a NAS or what, something like that. Yeah, I got you. Correct. It makes sense. Yeah.
So you can store, you can source audio though off your stored drive in your home. You just can't stream with these players, correct?
Correct.
That's an interesting choice to leave streaming off. I know the early Oppos allowed for streaming things like Netflix, but they quickly abandoned that. I wonder if that's just a difficulty of keeping up support for the various apps that you would need to run on board. Scott, have you guys talked internally about including anything like that?
Well, one point in time back years ago, I had streaming on my Blu-ray player. I had streaming on my AVR. I had streaming on, on everything had streaming. And it's like, you only need it once, right? So typically the AVRs have that, or other things have that. So there's not a need for it in the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Or the media.
Just be really a headache for you guys keeping up to date on firmware. I'd assume most people have an Apple TV or a Roku stick or whatever, however they're sourcing streaming.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool high-end product. Is we've got the pretty good audience right now. Does anybody out there have any questions? Wait and see if anybody pipes in here.
Yeah, see, I think everybody thought that Revon and Magnetar were related. Yeah. I'm glad we got that cleared up, and the Oppo thing too, because that's a big rumor mill there. Big rumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling Scott, Sonny, that I heard that when I was at the flat panel shootout this past
really?
past year. Yeah, and that was a room full of media people and video people. So when I heard it, I just kind of took it as, yeah, that's the truth. And I just kind of, I didn't change my opinion about the player. I mean, it was sitting there as being used. Everything was working great, but I just kind of heard it and just kind of went on my way with that in the back of my mind of, oh, they just kind of took over the IP. But
yeah, well, that's not the internet either.
yes,
but they probably got it from the internet,
right?
Their information, who else would they've gotten it from, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
These it's just really the rumors. Somebody says something about a processor or amplifier, or the way it sounds, or something like that, and it travels through these discussion forums and chat boxes and whatever, all these different places that you can discuss things. It travels and it gets repeated so many times that people start believing it. Yeah. And they have no idea. I mean, really, they have no idea if they just think because that person has 5,000 posts or because he owns a bunch of high-end equipment or something that he knows what he's talking about. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, this is total side tangent from the players we're looking at, but I got a note from one of our forum members. I guess it was yesterday, that said, hey, FYI, and I had a link over to AVS forum. And I clicked on it, and lo and behold, there's this, hey, over on AV Nirvana, Todd Anderson says that direct live active room treatment is not coming to consumer AVRs. He told me so. Something to that effect. And my first thought was, oh no, here we go.
It's only available through the Storm audio processors now.
Right now. Well, what I said is that I have heard from some industry insiders that they don't think it's going to make it to consumer AVRs, but there's no guarantee on that. I wasn't trying to state it as 100% fact, but Sonny, there's a couple pages over there talking about it. So brace yourself.
Wow. Okay.
Can't help it. But we can't say, Scott, without any doubt that you guys are not related to Oppo. So there you go.
True.
We can nip that in the bud when we see it.
So Scott,
I read it just here earlier today somewhere. I was actually doing a search for did Magnetar buy Revon, and that's where that came up. I saw it again where that the Magnetar was basically a revamped Oppo player.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And well, that's not really. I mean, the take home is that it's the replacement for it. In terms of the quality, because there's nothing else out there that can challenge it. So.
I'm not really sure the Oppo players were built that good a quality, were they? I mean, I know they were good quality, but maybe not quite as stout as the Magnetar.
I'll tell you what, the 205 that I had didn't weigh 37 pounds. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I had the same one. Yeah.
Yep. So here's a question. For streaming local network movies, does it support full Atmos playback? And can you describe the video selection interface for networked movies?
So if you're streaming this, the player just does bit stream out to your amplifier, and it's up to your amplifier to decode the bit stream and for Atmos.
So yeah, it does support full Atmos. Right.
So if the bit stream includes Atmos, as long as you've got it recorded on the disk, then there's no reason it shouldn't pass it through to the processor.
Right.
Gotcha.
And Scott, can you describe the video selection interface for networked movies? Yeah.
It's a pretty simple interface, a lot like, I don't know what to say it's like.
Is it text only?
Yeah, it's pretty much text. Yeah.
Text only. Okay. Yeah. I mean, getting the wall display like Kaleidoscape would take a lot of effort. and information to be able to pull that off.
You say wall type display. What I don't even what is that?
Kaleidoscape has their they have an interface that shows you all the titles, almost like the disc covers.
Oh, okay. I got what you're saying. Yeah. The wall display of all the different covers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is pretty neat.
Scott.
Yeah.
Actually, that question about Atmos reminded me. I wanted to ask you, do you guys have any intention of incorporating Aura 3D into your decoding?
Again, in our decoding, we don't do the decode most of the time. The only place we do decode is on that Atmos board. Otherwise, it's just send the bit stream through.
On the Atmos board? Yeah, so I guess the answer to that is no.
The analog board in the 900 has some decoding, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
If the source has it, it'll pass it.
Right.
But it wouldn't do like our Storm audio processors and convert anything, like convert.
Like
how
convert.
does that Storm work? It converts Atmos into RO3D.
Right. Yeah, no, it wouldn't do that. It doesn't. There's no upmixing of audio on board.
Right.
The 900, correct?
Correct.
I guess also the Aura 3D, it would be passed through as like a 5.1 stream and then decoded by the processor.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So onboard processing though is limited to Atmos and DTSX.
Actually, onboard processing is limited to Dolby Digital, Dolby True HD.
Yeah, what am I talking about? So that's correct. On the back side, let's see. Get this up here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can't run Atmos off that anyway because it's just 5 channels.
No 8 channels. It's
8 channels. Yep. 7.1. Silly question. So it's limited to Dolby.
Yep, Dolby True
DTS. Okay.
So if you want to get Atmos, you need to use the HDMI out, right?
Yes.
Right.
Pass it, yeah. Or the digital out. I guess the optical out and digital out would pass the Atmos track, wouldn't it? Yeah, would pass that bit stream. Yeah.
Paul Hertz across the pond. He's asking if the Oppo confusion is because there have been various branded players that use the same GUI. Possibly.
Yeah, that's what he just said a while ago. He said the UI, the interface looks very familiar. And that was one of the reasons a lot of people had it confused.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So Paul, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, they both use MediaTek processors, and that's probably part of why it looks similar.
The decoder chipset MediaTek.
It's made by MediaTek, both on the Oppo and on the Magnetar.
Yeah. So then
they're not the exact same processor; they're different, but they do both come from the same company.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's the reason right there. So Scott, before we wrap things up, for the person out there that's looking at these two players and trying to decide between the two, I mean, how did they go about doing that? What would your suggestion be?
Buy the 900.
Two of them, right?
Yeah.
You need a main one and a backup.
No, the biggest difference is you get the USB DAC on the 900, and if you're not going to use that, and you don't need analog out, if you're just doing digital, going out through the digital, you're probably fine. Use the 800. I would say the 900 probably has a little tiny bit better video processing also output. So your video output, if you want the best, then the 900 is the one you're going to get, even for if you're doing video out through HDMI. But they both are extremely good quality. When I connected up the first time, I connected the 800 up to my TV, and it's not even a super high end. It is a nice LG. The picture I saw kind of made my jaw drop. I was like, wow, I haven't seen that. I didn't know my TV could look that good. So, and the 900 is just a little better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Sonny, you're the kind of person that's just knowing that it could just be a little better. You just have to go with the little better, because that's kind of how I am.
He's gonna have to get a bigger rack to put it in if he does that.
Yeah, I'd be buying a bigger rack.
It really depends on what it. It really depends on what it is, but I think in this situation, if I had the space, I don't know. Because of the front panel, I probably would still go with 800 because I just don't need it. Now, if I didn't have Kaleidoscape, that might be a different story. But me using look, there's Kaleidoscape is limited to, there's really only a handful of folks out there that's got that. I mean, it's not a lot of people want to spend the money. It's an expensive option, no doubt. Very expensive option. And if I didn't have that, I probably would be looking for the absolute best video quality I could find. And I in that case, I'd probably have to figure out some way to make the 900 work. But for my case, I think the 800 would be fine. So,
you couldn't just nail an additional shelf on top.
Yeah, I could, but it would be it'd be in the way of my center channel speakers. So.
Okay. Well, we all have to make sacrifices.
Yeah. I can't raise my TV up any higher.
Fantastic.
Sonny, you're a good example of some of our customers that, they might have Kaleidoscape, but they still have a physical library. And I've got customers with thousands of play.
I got them. I don't have thousands, but I've got hundreds.
Yeah.
Literally hundreds of discs. And I'm not going to pay for a lot of those. I won't pay for them on Kaleidoscape, even though I've got them and I could get the digital download. To me, if I've got them already, then, look, I'll be good enough just playing them. And I think, if I want to watch one of them, in other words. Now, there are a few of my absolute favorites that I know I'm going to watch multiple times again that I have bought, no doubt. But, and I can tell you one right now is that Pink Floyd Delicate Sound of Thunder. Oh, man, that thing the Blu-ray of that is bad. I mean, it's okay, but it's nothing like Kaleidoscape. I mean, that thing sounds and looks incredible on Kaleidoscape for what it was, but they completely redid it, So, I mean, it's a good version of it. But
but I just bought that because of you.
If they made it on disc, I'm sure that it would look good, as well. But they don't. So, but then there's a lot of like one of my favorite concert DVDs is David Gilmour in concert. It's just a DVD, and you can't, Kaleidoscape doesn't have that. So, and I love listening to that particular concert. It's a fabulous concert. And, a player like the Magnetar would be fine for that, So I do have a need for looking at some of those older discs. But the DVD audio and the SACD are really key features for me. So, and that may be the same for other people too. I'm sure they're looking for that. A lot of people out there, because it's searching for it. A lot of people are looking for. I need SACD, so they're looking for something that works for that. So,
yeah.
Well, I'll be curious to see what happens, Sonny, when you get it in your possession.
Me too.
Awesome. Well, Scott, listen, we're bumping up on an hour here. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us and chatting about those two very cool products. I love the fact that you guys are in the industry and representing the high end because we need it. So please make sure that you guys can stay relevant.
Don't go away. Don't disappear on us.
That's right. And so everyone out there, Happy New Year. A little
Happy
day
New Year.
early. Yep. Happy New Year. We will be back next year. I think, Sonny, we're going to have Next Level Acoustics on next up, which will be a lot of fun. And in the meantime, Scott, hopefully we'll get a chance to run into you at one of the shows. Will you be at CEDIA possibly this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So we'll, Sonny, hopefully you're going to be there this year.
I'm planning on it.
And yeah.
I thought about going to Barcelona, but my wife says you ain't going over there.
I'm going to be there. I just bought my plane ticket yesterday. So
Really?
Man,
I'm
I'm going to be there.
now. I would really love to be there.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I'm hoping it's going to be a good time. Are you going to be out there, Scott, at ISC by any chance?
No.
No.
I see.
Is Magnetar, will they have a presence? Will you guys be there?
I imagine they will. I'm Magnetar in USA. That's my responsibility. So I'm not sure what happens elsewhere. I'd love to be there. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's going to be fun.
Good
city. And yeah, definitely. Awesome. All right, Scott, if you can just hang on for 1 second as we end the stream, just to make sure that everything backs up properly.
Sure.
And then we'll let you go. Sonny, we'll see you soon.
Enjoyed it, guys. Yeah. Much fun.
Okay. If you enjoy content like this, hit like, subscribe, and then join the conversation on AV